For years, Shia LaBeouf was one of the most fascinating and unpredictable people in Hollywood. To some people, he was the scrappy young actor who climbed his way out of a chaotic childhood and became the face of a billion-dollar blockbuster movie series. To others, he was the troubled star who constantly seemed to be spiraling into controversy, legal trouble, or bizarre public behavior that left fans confused and critics wondering what had happened to one of the most promising actors of his generation. What makes Shia LaBeouf an interesting and compelling story is that both sides of this are true. His life has been a constant collision between raw talent and personal chaos, between ambition and self-destruction, between a man who clearly wanted to become a serious artist and a person who often struggled with addiction, emotional instability, and relationships that would later bring extremely serious allegations into the public eye. To understand how someone can rise to the top of Hollywood while also becoming one of the most controversial figures, we have to go all the way back to the beginning. Because long before the blockbuster movies, before the public meltdowns, and before the strange performance art projects that made headlines around the world, Shia LaBeouf was simply a kid growing up in Los Angeles trying to survive a childhood that was anything but stable. This is the turbulent life of Shia LaBeouf.
Strangling superstar Shia LaBeouf, fighting for your life with Shia LaBeouf, wrestling a knife with Shia LaBeouf, stabbed in his kidney, safe at last from Shia LaBeouf.
You limp into the dark woods, blood oozing from your stump leg. You've beaten Shia LaBeouf.
Shia was born on June 11th, 1986 in Los Angeles, California. On the surface, his family life appeared creative and unconventional. His mother, Shania, worked as a dancer, visual artist, and jewelry designer. She had a strong artistic spirit and encouraged creativity in the home. His father, Jeffrey, was a Vietnam War veteran who later worked in various entertainment jobs, including performing as a clown at rodeos. But beneath the creative environment, there was a family life that was filled with instability. The LaBeouf family struggled financially for much of Shia's childhood. Money was often tight, and the household environment could be unpredictable. His father battled serious addiction issues involving alcohol and heroin, which created long periods of emotional turbulence within the family. In later interviews, Shia would describe his childhood as chaotic and emotionally confusing. He loved his father deeply, but he also watched him struggle with substance abuse in ways that were difficult for a young child to process. There were periods when his father would disappear from the family's life entirely, and other times when he would return in unstable conditions that left Shia unsure of what to expect. These early experiences definitely left a lasting mark on Shia. At times, the family lived in modest apartments in rough neighborhoods around Los Angeles. Stability was rare. Predictability was almost non-existent. But in the middle of that instability, Shia discovered something that gave him a sense of power and control that he didn't feel anywhere else. He discovered that he could make people laugh. Comedy became his escape from the chaos around him. When he could make someone laugh, he felt like he had control over the room. He felt that he could turn the painful or uncomfortable moments of his life into something entertaining. Even as a young child, Shia had an unusual ability to observe the strange dynamics around him and turn them into stories that people found funny. And eventually, he began performing these stories for anyone who would listen. By the time Shia was around 10 years old, he had already developed a strong fascination with stand-up comedy. He watched comedians perform on television and began mimicking their routines. He practiced timing, delivery, and storytelling, and before long, he started performing small comedy routines for classmates and family members. But Shia didn't want to just imitate comedians, he wanted to become one. At the age when most kids were forced on schools or sports, Shia was already thinking about performing on real stages. So he did something that seems almost unbelievable in hindsight. At around 10 years old, he began performing stand-up comedy routines at small clubs in LA. Many of the jokes were based on exaggerated stories about his home life. He talked about his parents, he talked about growing up poor, he talked about the strange situations he found himself in as a kid navigating a complicated family environment. The audiences were surprised on how naturally funny he was. There was something authentic about his performances. Even at a young age, Shia had a kind of raw emotional energy that made people pay attention. But performing stand-up was only one step in a larger plan. because Shia had already decided he wanted to become an actor, and he wasn't going to wait for someone else to discover him. Shia's entry into acting became an incredibly simple but bold idea. One day, he picked up a phone book. He began looking through the listings for talent agencies, and then he started calling them. A child with no connections in the entertainment industry was literally cold calling talent agents and asking them to represent him. Eventually, one agent agreed to meet with him. Shia performed a stand-up routine during the meeting, and the agent recognized that he had something unusual, natural charisma combined with a fearless willingness to perform. That meeting opened the door to Shia's first professional auditions. He began landing small roles in television shows and commercials. Those early jobs were not glamorous, but they helped him build experience and start establishing himself in the industry. And then, just a few years later, he landed the role that would change everything. In 2000, Shia was cast to the new Disney Channel with a series called Even Stevens. The show centered around the Stevens family, and Shia played Louis Stevens, the mischievous young brother who constantly created chaos for everyone around him. Louis Stevens quickly became the heart of the show, and Shia's comedic timing was exceptional. His physical comedy felt fearless and unpredictable, and his ability to move between humor and emotional sincerity made the character feel surprisingly real for a Disney sitcom. Audiences loved him. The show became one of the most popular series on the Disney Channel during its run, and in 2003, Shia won a Daytime Emmy Award for his performance. He was only 16 years old. For many child actors, that kind of success became a trap. They become permanently associated with their early roles and struggled to transition into more mature work. But Shia had much bigger ambitions. He didn't want to stay a Disney star. He wanted to become a serious actor. After Even Stevens ended, Shia was trying to search for roles that would break him out of the whole Disney Channel kid tag that he had on himself. One of his earliest opportunities came with the film Holes in 2003. The movie, based on the novel, allowed Shia to show a different side of his acting abilities. The role required comedic moments and genuine emotional depth, and critics began noticing that he had more range than many former child actors. But the true turning point in his career came when one of the most powerful directors in Hollywood started paying attention to him: Steven Spielberg. Spielberg reportedly saw something unique in Shia's performances. He saw raw authenticity and emotional intensity that felt genuine rather than manufactured. This belief led to several opportunities. In 2007, Shia starred in thriller Disturbia, which became a series box office hit and further demonstrated that he could carry a film as a central character. But the biggest moment came shortly afterward. That same year, Shia was cast as Sam Witwicky in the live-action adaptation of Transformers. When Transformers released back in 2007, it became a massive global hit. The movie combined explosive action with humor and spectacle, and Shia's character served as a human anchor for the entire story. Almost overnight, Shia became one of the most recognizable actors in the world. The film grossed hundreds of millions of dollars and launched a massive franchise. Shia continued his roles in the Transformers Revenge of the Fallen and Transformers Dark of the Moon, turning him into the face of one of the most profitable movie series of the era. At the same time, he was cast in another major franchise. In 2008, he appeared alongside Harrison Ford in Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Working with Spielberg again and starring alongside one of cinema's most legendary actors, Shia seemed destined to become Hollywood's next major leading man. But behind the scenes, the pressure of fame and expectations was beginning to take its toll. As Shia's fame grew, his struggles, personal and emotional, became increasingly visible.
Joining the ranks of Lindsay Lohan, Nicole Richie, and most recently Khloe Kardashian, Shia LaBeouf was arrested on suspicion of drunken driving Sunday.
I hope he learns from it, but that's what could have happened to me, and thank God it didn't.
In 2008, he was involved in a serious car accident in LA that required surgery on his hand. Around the same time, reports began emerging about heavy partying, late-night incidents, and increasingly erratic behavior. Over the next several years, Shia's public image began shifting from promising young star to unpredictable Hollywood rebel. He was arrested multiple times for disorderly conduct and public intoxication. In 2014, he was arrested during a Broadway performance after reportedly causing a disturbance inside the theater. By this point, Shia had begun openly criticizing Hollywood and expressing frustration with the blockbuster system that made him famous in the first place. He claimed that large studio films limited creativity and pushed actors into repetitive roles. But his response to that frustration became increasingly unconventional. Around 2013, Shia began experimenting with performance art. One of the most infamous projects involved him attending a red carpet event wearing a bag over his head that read, "I am not famous anymore." This stunt went viral around the world, but for Shia, it was part of a larger artistic statement about celebrity culture, identity, and the pressure of fame. He later participated in art installations where members of the public could interact with him directly, sometimes in emotionally intense ways. These projects blurred the line between performance, therapy, and public spectacle. Some critics praised them as bold artistic experiments, while others saw them as signs of public breakdown. Either way, Shia was no longer just a Hollywood actor, he had become a cultural enigma. In 2020, Shia's life took another drastic turn when musician and actress FKA Twigs filed a lawsuit accusing him of abusive behavior during their relationship. The allegations were extremely serious and quickly became a major story in entertainment news. Shia publicly acknowledged that he had struggled with harmful behavior in relationships and stated that he had entered treatment for addiction and personal issues. The situation damaged his career significantly. Several projects distanced themselves from him. His public image reached perhaps its lowest point. But in the years that followed, Shia began speaking about attempts to rebuild his life. He converted to being Catholic while researching a film role and later spoke about how faith had become an important part of his recovery. He also began appearing in smaller independent film projects and speaking about sobriety and accountability. Whether these changes represent a lasting transformation remains a subject of debate to this day. But one thing is certain, the story of Shia has never followed a predictable path, and there's even more to discuss. Let's get into it. As Shia's career continued moving through Hollywood, another storyline began developing in parallel. And that storyline involved repeated run-ins with the law. For many fans, the pattern seemed confusing because the same actor who could deliver powerful emotional performances on screen often appeared unable to control himself and his behavior off camera. Now, in addition to the trouble that he got into while at a Broadway performance back in 2014, there was more that I want to expand on. One of the most widely publicized incidents for his legal history occurred in July of 2017, the night he was arrested in Savannah, Georgia after asking a stranger for a cigarette. When the person refused, Shia reportedly became agitated and began shouting profanity in public. Police officers attempted to de-escalate the situation, but the actor continued yelling and refusing to leave. Body camera footage released afterward showed Shia launching into an angry rant towards the officers, including profanity and racially offensive remarks. That footage went viral. For many viewers, it was shocking to see a former Disney star in such a volatile and confrontational situation. He was charged with public intoxication, disorderly conduct, and obstruction. Later on that year, he pleaded no contest to disorderly conduct and was sentenced to probation and therapy. Shia later described the incident as one of the lowest points in his life and apologized publicly, saying alcohol addiction had played a major role in this behavior. Many people also mentioned that his apology was actually something that he just plagiarized from online and really struggled to believe the sincerity of that apology. It seems that every few years, another incident would occur with Shia, and each one added to the growing narrative that Shia was a brilliant but troubled figure. Now, we spoke a little bit about his previous relationships. Let's talk about some of the others. Throughout the years, he was involved with several high-profile partners, many which ended in controversy. One of the most well-known relationships began in 2012 with actress Mia Goth. The two met while filming the movie Maniac, and their relationship quickly became serious. They appeared together frequently at public events and developed a reputation for having an intense and somewhat unpredictable relationship. In 2016, the couple held what appeared to be a wedding ceremony in Las Vegas that was live streamed online. The ceremony gained widespread media attention because it was an unusual nature and because it perfectly matched the unpredictable energy that often surrounded Shia. But their relationship would prove to be anything but stable because in 2018, they announced that they were separating. And after that relationship is when he started dating Twigs that we mentioned earlier on in the video. And as we stated earlier, that relationship ended, and then Twigs started throwing out allegations of physical abuse from Shia that he then had to go to therapy for and deal with in court. And the funny thing is, after that, he actually reunited himself with Mia Goth. Despite their earlier separation, the couple appeared to rekindle their relationship around 2020. And in 2022, they welcomed their first child together, a daughter named Isabel. For a brief period, it appeared that Shia's life might be stabilizing. He spoke openly about his struggles with addiction and said he was working to rebuild his life. He also began exploring religion and converted to being Catholic, as we mentioned before, to prepare for a film role. And he stated that diving into the Catholic beliefs helped him with his transformation into being a better person. And in 2025, he and Goth, they ended up separating again. The good thing here is that they still are co-parenting their child, and they have a good enough relationship to keep that all together. Now, just when it seemed like Shia was entering a calmer phase of his life, new headlines have began appearing. In February 26, Shia was arrested in New Orleans during Mardi Gras celebrations after allegedly becoming involved in a bar altercation. Police reported that the actor had punched 2 men during the incident, leading to charges of simple battery. The arrest once again placed him at the center of media attention. Reports indicated that the altercation occurred during a period of personal difficulty, including the ongoing breakup with Mia Goth. According to sources close to the situation, the couple had quietly separated roughly a year earlier, as we just mentioned, of the on and off relationship. And as you would assume, Shia had spoken about his past mistakes and acknowledged that many of the problems that he's had in his relationships are the result of his own behaviors, taking the blame on his own shoulders. At the same time, his career has begun slowly re-emerging in smaller independent films and artistic projects. Some industry insiders believe he may eventually rebuild his career in a more limited but still respected capacity. Others believe the controversies surrounding his past will continue to follow him over the years. Now, we know that he dives all in on the characters that he's playing, whether he's actually putting real scars in his body to depict the scars of the character that he plays, or if he just lives the life of the character that he's playing for the length of the job. He 100% dives into his role. And this could be a good or a bad thing. The life of Shia is one of the most complicated stories in modern Hollywood. It's a story about extraordinary talent, but it's also the story about personal demons that repeatedly surface in public view. No matter what stage of life you followed Shia, his life never followed a straight line. It's been a story of sharp rises and steep falls. And even today, the story is continuously being written. Shia has a life story of someone that continues to walk the fragile line between redemption and controversy.